Why am I not putting hair dryers and spoolie boys on everything? There's no good reason to build this thing to make 1,000 horsepower, 1,500 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower. If you are truly an amazing artist, you can create awesome art without spending a lot of money. What's up, people? Today let's talk about engine swaps. I wanted to bring this up because obviously I'm doing the King Zero build and I chose to put a BMW M70 V12 engine in it. What originally was a Porsche Boxster chassis, but really isn't going to be the chassis or the lower pan of it anymore. So I'm going to adapt to the Porsche transaxle instead of this flat six anemic engine that's very nicely engineered, but doesn't make the power or sound the way I want. This ridiculous, old, high mileage BMW V12 that I recently harvested out of a 1992 750iL. Okay, come here, baby. Don't do something horrible. All right. Now, what I'm going to do with this in almost every way is completely unreasonable and insane. But it's also a great idea, and I'm doing it on an intelligent budget and effectively. So there is a value and an art to it. With engine builds, you see a lot of things, especially on the internet. Obviously, the LS engine swap memes are great fun. LS engines are a fantastic power plant for lots of things to make a bunch of power and torque cheaply. They really are. If you look at race car replicas up in Michigan, Fran's place, he's got like, you know, a 917 replica, Lowell T70, 4GT, all that stuff. He loves to put LS engines in it because it's the best value to race. But a V8 is not necessarily always the right sound or configuration for your car. So for instance, if you wanted to build a Porsche 917 replica and you put an LS in it, it's not going to sound right. It's a liquid cooled motor instead of a air and oil cooled motor. So where are you going to stick the radiators? You know what I'm saying? You get into issues with that. And with a Porsche, I could stick an LS in this, it would fit, and frankly, it would make more horsepower and torque than that BMW V12. Of course, I got the BMW V12 so cheaply that it's actually cheaper than doing it. But why am I not putting an LS in there? Why am I not putting hair dryers and spoolie boys on everything? Because it doesn't really make sense, you guys. Like, I really enjoy watching the engine swap YouTubers out there. I mean, Rob Dahm is killing it with his Dorito-powered everything. It's great fun. But that's not my deal. And that's also really expensive. So what I wanted to do with the King Zero build and this BMW V12 is I want to build something that's evocative, that's art, that's engineering, that's exciting. But I don't have a lot of money to spend. I'm going to be able to build this entire car driving down the road looking gorgeous and frankly showing up Bugatti Chirons at Cars and Coffee and stuff like this for less than $20,000. I'm not kidding. I bought the car with this engine running and driving with a wiring harness and everything in it for $1,300, and somebody wants to buy the roller for $1,000, which means I'm going to have $300 in the motor and wiring harness. $300 in a BMW V12 that runs well and does not have major issues. Like, do you get how cheap that is? Now, truth be told, I know you're going to say it, it's leaky, it needs a little bit of stuff, it needs some tuning up. So I'm going to spend probably another $1,000 just making it not leaky and look pretty and everything good and maybe replace a few lifters and stuff. But it's a good motor and it's going to run for a long, long time and make good power. And that's why I'm doing it, because there's art to this. It's 12 cylinders. That's the way supercars used to be because it was exciting and evocative and the sound it made was amazing. And for something like the King Zero, which frankly is going to be this tall and kind of dangerous inherently, you want it to be an experience. You want it to be art. You want it to be amazing. Of course I'm going to build a car, chassis that handles well and brakes well and is inherently a good performer to be safe, because you don't want to make a piece of junk that you'll crash. But it doesn't need to make 1,000 horsepower. It doesn't even make 500 horsepower. This thing will be plenty fast enough to put you in jail in all 50 states and beat almost every sports car you'll ever run into if you can just drive half decently. And it's going to sound amazing. And I did it for a reasonable amount of money. So that's why I chose it, because I don't want to just blow tens of thousands or hundred thousands of dollars just to be like, I made 1,500 horsepower. Like, that's cool, but it's not very creative. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so the Hypersport over here is a beautiful car, and it's gonna get twin turboed and all, and be the flat six, and that's super neat. But there's no good reason to build this thing to make 1,000 horsepower, 1,500 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower. Like, if you just wanna go straight in a straight line, then build a dragster. But like, this is going to be a beautiful, exquisite, nice to drive both on the street and track hypercar. I mean, it's gonna be cool. So that's the value with that. But for a home build, something like this, I just want you guys to realize you can do amazing things for not a lot of money. And I'm gonna give you this example. All the best painters and sculptors through history, those artists, those artworks that will sell for tens of millions of dollars, it's still just canvas and paint. That's not worth hardly anything. What makes it special is the person behind creating it. And the same is true for cars. So what I say to young and old people out there, don't fall down the rabbit hole of just spending money and going after numbers. Money and numbers isn't exciting. It doesn't exactly make my loins burn. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not exactly like, it's not that cool. But art, things that are evocative, like art, the sound, the shape, the experience, now that's cool. And those things don't necessarily cost tons of money. So on that note, I'm gonna lift this up a little bit. I wanna look at this V12 with you guys, show you what I see, what's good, what's bad, what I don't know is good or bad, and what I think the challenges are going to be. Okay. So obviously sitting on here on a crane, gotta be safe, don't wanna get underneath it. And when I go to leave, I'm gonna put it at lower potential energy. All right, so V12 out of a BMW, inherently a decent engine. Now I know people are gonna start talking about port design and velocity and camshafts and everything like that and talking about doesn't make enough horsepower. First of all, relax. That's not what this video is. It's supposed to be about the art, the experience, building something cool. BMWs make really great motors. This has 12 cylinders. It sounds really pretty. Let's leave it at that. So it's got this beautiful aluminum block. This is where the architecture derived initially for the McLaren F1 engine. Of course, there's a load of differences here. This engine makes half the horsepower of a McLaren F1, but it sounds really pretty. It's got these dorky cast iron manifolds here, which would just have two pipes coming out. So clearly I could make some beautiful tubular headers. The oil pan is way up front, so you got a lot of room if you need structure here, like in the car. That could be good, that could be bad, but that's what we've got to work with. You've got your spark plug wires and spark plugs, easy accessible, and this actually has distributors on it. So that's kind of neat. That's kind of old school, makes it a little easier. It's a single overhead camshaft. Allegedly, you can get different camshafts from Europe and stuff. We'll see. Or maybe have some custom camshafts welded and ground. But you don't necessarily need to do that. Obviously, you got the two big intake plenums here, one for each bank with really long runners to get your torque down low. Crossing over like that. It's rather attractive actually, and with this all cleaned up, this could be something really pretty to look into. Of course, individual throttle bodies would be really cool and could sound cool, but ITBs, even with taller velocity stacks, are typically a little higher RPM type thing, and they're expensive. I could buy a load of these motors for just putting ITBs on it, and is it really worth it? Will it make it sound that much better? It's cool, but I don't think it's the right direction for this build. That's kind of just a lot of money. So probably gonna go with this, keep it naturally aspirated with the stock manifolds here. Now the one thing that you could do with the stock manifolds is twin turbocharge it, because you got your two throttle bodies right here, or your two openings for the plenums, and I'm gonna have lots of room to make stuff. So something that might be a lot of fun for this build is turboing it. Now, making power with turbos really comes down to two things. How much boost and fuel can you throw at it to make a bigger boom? And will your engine not blow up? That's about it. So the more boost and fuel you throw at it to make a bigger boom, you're gonna make more horsepower. But if your engine's not ready for it, you're gonna make it go boom. And that's where it gets expensive. So if I did do twin turbos on this, I would probably be reasonable and run low boost, like 5 or 6 pounds, so I can run it on this stock motor and not blow it sky high and be nice to it. It'll be cool, it'll be fun to build, it might sound good, but frankly, I'm thinking of doing a naturally aspirated build because for as fun as turbos can be, making whooshy noises and pop-off valves and stuff like that, the most beautiful music I ever hear an exhaust engine make is from being naturally aspirated and tuning the length of your headers and such to work. So if you want to come over here, I'll show you a little more. Excuse me. Now, this engine was on an automatic gearbox with BMW. Now, I imagine so that this block is the same one in the BMW 850 Ci, which came with a manual gearbox. So there's probably some rare parts out there that could work with this, but I don't want to spend the money or time to find those rare parts. So there is a place that I was able for a guy to make me an adapter plate for the BMW engine to the Porsche transaxles of both the base Boxster and the Boxster XS transaxle. The only thing I'm not particularly fond of, you can see the flywheel bolt on here for the adapter. It sticks out a long way, and that's because you have to have a rather thick adapter to come out and then shrink from where this ring gear is. You could more complicatedly build it another way, but by doing it this way and using this stock ring gear, you can use the stock starter, which is much easier. So I'll show you how this works. Now, there was one little mistake the person who made this made, but I was able to find out about it quickly and give him some feedback. But this relief that was machined out right here for this cover and these bolts was not machined out quite enough. So I got to mill that out a little bit further. So this will be the adapter plate. It bolts to the motor, and then it's threaded so that you can bolt your Porsche transaxle to it. Of course, this is going to fit a lot further down. The Porsche transaxle was made for a smaller engine, not so big, so that's why this ends up having to be thick, because it has to step down for that transaxle. There, of course, are other ways to make things, which I might experiment with in the future for fun. So if I had a Porsche transaxle, you could always cut the bell housing off, and then you could theoretically take the bell housing of the automatic transmission that was in the Beamer, cut it and weld it together. Haven't looked into exactly what it'd take to do that. You'd have to do some jigging, some really good jigging, and some really good aluminum welding, and then you'd have to know the alloys and stuff to weld what is a cast aluminum piece, which could be a pain in the butt. So typically doing it with a billet piece or steel works out better. Now, the thing about this flywheel I wasn't super keen on is that it sticks out further. The farther out you put it, the more of a moment arm it has if it's out of balance, and it'll change the harmonics of the crankshaft. And even though I'm not building this for a ton of power, I still want it to be dead smooth, and I want to be able to use all the power in the RPM range. So this one I made sure was balanced within a gram, and I don't think you can see it real well. I can poke my finger in it. Down here where the balancing, where they drilled the holes. Can you see there's a hole here and a hole here around the edge? That's where they balanced it. So it's been balanced very, very well. That made me breathe a little easier since it has to stick out, which is not my first choice for engineering of an engine. But this is going to be a bit of a show car. I'm going to drive it fast a few times, but it's not going to see super hardcore track duty. It's not going to see 50 or 100,000 miles. So I think it's going to work just fine. Obviously, it's got a really nice pilot bearing in here, so I'm real happy with that, and a lot of good bolts to hold it on. So this motor is very leaky, and the reason being is it's really hard to take this out of the Beamer and impossible to service, so they don't get serviced. So this is leaking out of about every orifice it can. The valve covers, I've got new gaskets that came with the car. I'm going to reseal the intake plenum. I'm going to take them off, clean all the injectors, clean everything, refinish it, clean off everything here, and I'm just going to have to reseal a heck of a lot of gaskets. And that will also include the oil pan gasket, which there's one right here for, this is the bigger sump, and then there's like a secondary here. I don't know if there's, no, I don't think there's a cradle in there, but this gasket potentially has to be sealed as well. And then I have to decide how much dripping is acceptable. Let's be honest, it's an old European thing. When I had a Countach, oh man, I guarantee the garage where I used to live when that thing was in there still has oil stains. That thing leaked like a sieve. An old complex sand-casted Italian car. That's what everybody thinks. You guys all want these cool old supercars? They all suck, and they require thousands and thousands of hours just to keep them reasonable. It's true. They're cool, they're evocative, but they suck. And that's why I'm having fun now building my own stuff. So this pressure plate is a typical Porsche pressure plate, which was made obviously which was made for Porsche, but this flywheel was made to work with. I don't have the friction disc right now. I'm waiting for that to come. And then of course this pilot bearing was made for the Porsche transaxle. But I just want to show you guys this, that a couple of things. One, be reasonable when you're thinking of engines and builds and engine swaps. Don't get blinded just by horsepower and numbers and money. It isn't all about that. If you are truly an amazing artist, you can create awesome art without spending a lot of money. Now, I well and truly know that cars are very inherently expensive. But when I can end up having a wonderful German V12 engine for effectively $300 when all said and done, and I can have a Porsche platform with a transaxle and a title and wiring harness and all kinds of stuff I can use for probably $1,000 or $500 when it's done, and I'm considering you know, I'm going to sell the old wheels. That's how or sell the old chassis, sell the stuff I don't need. You can really get somewhere. Keep in mind, you still have to have the facility to create it, the tools and the experience, and that doesn't necessarily come cheap. You got to have those things because this build is going beyond what you can do in your garage. But I am excited because let me show you what the body is going to be. How are we going to make the body? Is there a fiberglass mold? Are you going to 3D print it? Are you going to do it in a computer? Heck no. I got my CAD drawing here. That is cardboard aided design. And I got sheet metal, guys. All this flat sheet metal is going to become a car, just like the olden days. And it'll be done with the stuff that's in that toolbox, these two hands, and what I got in here and here. So at the end of the day, money can still buy fancy things, which is exactly why Ferrari and Lamborghini only sell cars with paddle shifters right now, which is very disappointing because when they did that, they took away the art of driving. So with this build and the King Zero, I'm bringing back the art of driving and the art of cars, and I hope it inspires you guys to do the same. I'll see you next time.